I love lenders. I love real estate agents. I love, the title companies, but that $500 that somebody's going to spend for a home inspection is, I think without a doubt, it's the best money that somebody can spend.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Excellence Podcast. Today, I have a little change of pace. I've had on several amazing real estate teams the last couple of weeks, but today we bring in the maker and breaker of real estate transactions, the inevitable home inspector. This owner, founder of Housescan Inspections, has grown to be a force in home inspections in Northeast Florida. Many amazing Google reviews. He works alongside some of the top real estate teams in Northeast Florida. He is a smart one as well, as he is a graduate of Penn State, achieving Dean's List 8 semesters. He is, and here's a little trivia, voted most artistic of his senior high school class. Let's welcome the owner and founder of Housescan Inspections, Stein, to the show.
Amazing. Thank you.
I did a little research there.
Where did you find those facts? Those were dug up from pretty deep somewhere.
They are actually right on your LinkedIn, actually.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I haven't been on LinkedIn in years, so.
You go on there and update. I always like to research, and I've had people compliment me before, said, hey, really appreciate the fact that, you researched me before he came on. And I saw that on there. I said, oh, there's a little catchy one there. The most artistic. You have to explain that, obviously.
Oh, man. Yeah, I guess just from whenever I was a little kid, drawing and painting with my mom, got good at it, and ended up just like painting in high school and sold some paintings and things like that.
Do you still do it as a hobby or anything?
Funny enough, no, like zero ever since like middle school or high school. But I did make one large dog painting for my brother and sister-in-law for their dogs. And then I'm actually currently making a baby cheetah and a baby giraffe for our nursery.
Okay.
I got a baby on the way in about 2 months.
Awesome.
So that's gonna be a little surprise gift for the wife.
One of the things, we bought our house in 2009, it was a foreclosure. And one of the, not the, obviously a master bedroom, but one of the alternate had this totally Winnie the Pooh mural all the way around, including the ceiling being painted with clouds and everything.
Yeah.
And we kept that, obviously we didn't have kids at the time. And then our son, was born. We kept that till just really probably just 2 or 3 years ago.
Cool.
He obviously outgrew that part, but that was an amazing mural to put on there.
Interesting.
As a side note.
Yeah.
So as I start off every show, tell me a little bit, where you grew up.
Yeah. So I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I went to Penn State after high school, got an engineering degree there, ended up taking a job with Maxwell House down here in Jacksonville right after college. So I moved down here, didn't know anybody, brand new beginnings. And I was doing engineering work there, moved into operations, ended up kind of moving up until I was essentially running the entire factory, the entire Maxwell House facility for my first shift. And then that kind of got me into the world of operations, kind of running a little miniature business. Actually not miniature business, a massive business.
Yeah. I mean, how many employees are you on a shift down there?
So on a shift, my shift was about 70, 80 employees.
Wow. That's quite a group to manage.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially like as a 24, 25-year-old, it was something. So really amazing place to work. My managers and the plant manager were incredible. Just learned everything about managing people, running an operation, all that good stuff, and don't have enough good stuff to say about that place. So
yeah, it's well, I saw that on your LinkedIn, but didn't know the in-depthness of it, of what you're, I mean, did Maxwell put you through a lot of managerial type training? Was that something consistently there? Because I want to, taking that experience, and then, I mean, you have a pretty decent sized team now in growing with the inspections, and how you took that experience, that training, those things you learned there to what you're doing today.
Yeah, I think it translates exactly, one for one over to what I'm doing now. I learned really quickly how to treat people and how to manage a team. But also, like, ever since I was a kid, I was playing, these factory simulation games as a, nerdy engineer kid, and, trying to figure out how to optimize things and make the most product or whatever it might be. And that's my degree as well. So my brain has kind of like evolved, and that's how I think now, nowadays, just how to be faster, smarter, quicker, better, than than the competition. And
so I'm going to kind of lump a lot of these in because we kind of really just went right at it is you're successful there. You're young and you managing a lot of people, usually hopefully dollars came with that. What branches you off? Because it's really, you graduated in 2012, right? From Penn State, and you start Housescan, I think it was in 16, if I remember correctly. 2017. So, in a very quick period of time, you're doing big things. What takes you away from that and want to get into home inspections?
Yeah. So I left Maxwell House. I got kind of poached by a headhunter on LinkedIn and to manage another facility in Jacksonville. That company got bought out 30 days after I took that job.
Oh, no.
And so I learned really quick about the corporate world and what can happen there.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting moment in life. And, I thought, everything's over and terrible, but ended up traveling for a little bit. I'd saved up a little bit of money, bought a few rental properties during my first career. And at that point, I wasn't working.
So there was a little taste of real estate at that time. You had a little was that something that you just picked up on your own, or is that something you're from your family that you were doing well in what you were doing to invest in real estate? What led you to that?
Yeah, so my wife Stephanie, her and her whole family, they're all involved in real estate in some capacity. Broker, agent, lender. Kind of touch every piece of the real estate world. And yeah, I ended up buying my first house. I lived in it. I house hacked, and so I had 3 roommates in it, essentially living for free. And then I went and did it again and then again. So.
Oh, wow. So you're just like all these podcasts and YouTube channels, talking about house hacking. And I was listening to obviously one.
Well, I didn't know it was called house hacking at the time.
Yeah.
But it made sense financially. And so I did it.
Yeah. Well, to find opportunities and obviously having, taking advantage of being a single person at the time, the roommates and type thing to take advantage of that. Yeah. That's like the craze is the house hacking. Ideally, if you could find a multi-unit property, which is tough to do these days,
right?
Unless you're in the older parts of town and so forth. But I was talking, we're going to do noontime today. It's Wednesday. I started a group with Tom Reber, mortgage athletes. And last week, we were just talking about the demand for housing in the area and so forth. And we really need areas to be built with some duplexes and so forth.
I agree. Density. It's so bad.
What's the terminology? I know they're in California. They're really trying to expand it where you can have the mother-in-law suite.
Oh, just the zoning changes.
Something dwelling. Anyway, but it's changing the zoning. So you see it in a lot of older cities like, Chicago or New York. I mean, that's very common. You go up in Michigan in the back on top of the garage, there's an apartment.
Right.
Where we may, we kind of need to get back into that or zone some areas and say, hey, we're going to build duplexes here because there's wealth can be built in there. Someone who doesn't make a lot of income can buy that because they're going to have the income from the other side to support that. And we need rental places as well as obviously reasonable homes to buy.
Sure.
That's we talk about that at the Mortgage Athletes noon on Wednesdays, but
cool.
So you're working at Maxwell House, you're doing homes, but the home inspection.
Yep. So
where do you get the flavor there?
Yeah. So I ended up, like I said, bought a few properties. And then the story is we were out to dinner one night at Hawkers in Neptune Beach. And it was myself and my wife or fiance at the time and her whole family talking about home inspections. And it was just complaint after complaint after complaint, one after another. And so
because everyone's in the business talking.
Yeah, we started talking about, a lot of the conversation in the family is about real estate. And so we started talking about home inspections and I had a few home inspections and wasn't, terribly just over the moon about my experience. I remember at one point I had to bring a check to the inspector. I had to pay for the wind mitigation and the 4-point super late in the process, maybe just a few weeks before closing. And so, heard a bunch of things like that. And my father-in-law, he said, Kurt, you're not working right now. Why not start a home inspection business? As a serial entrepreneur, he is. And so, light bulb went on and, from there it was just 100 miles per hour towards, creating this company and getting to where we are today.
So you yourself, initially I would imagine it was just you, right? When you first kicked off and digging into the houses and so forth versus today, maybe a little bit more, management is because I've seen you grown. You've got, looks like on your website, looked like you probably had half a dozen or so inspectors plus some support staff.
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So yeah, we grew on word of mouth, really just putting together a good product, good service, good pricing early on. And that really grew like quickly through the agent community. Bumps in the road along the way. Not everything's perfect, but yeah, I just started focusing on hiring really high caliber, great people. I did not care about them having a background in home inspections or real estate. I just wanted them to be awesome people that can communicate well with the client and just, have high character.
So that's interesting. You mentioned that, and I can see why you're successful, because you've broken the mold where I would think the stereotypical thing is, I want to find somebody who knows about home inspection,
right?
Which a lot of those guys are probably got their own business, or somebody else discarded them because they really weren't. Because would you agree, and I'm assuming your success has been, there is more than just the physical inspecting of the home. Unless you do have that front person who's really good at the customer service, really good at taking that report and explaining it in the proper way, an edible way to the agent and the buyer or seller. There's that skill as well. And it's almost as important. I would, you could put your own percentage, but I would say 55% maybe the actual knowing how to home inspect, and 45% is how to present it.
Sure. 100%. And that's what I heard early on from my wife, her family, all the other agents that I knew at the time. And I just knew that communication was really important, and how we're divulging the information that we're uncovering during a home inspection. Because, it's all I heard early on was, don't kill my deal, don't blow up the deal. And we've certainly have, done plenty of inspections where the buyer did not move forward.
Right.
We like to say it's due to the house, not how we, divulge the information.
You're just stating the facts.
Exactly. But I heard that over and over again that, so-and-so is an alarmist, and, they're just scaring everybody away from a perfectly good house. And that's part of it. Right. But there's so many aspects to the home inspection service. It's very difficult. I have just the utmost respect for every one of my inspectors and every other inspector out there. It's a really difficult job. You have to know houses. You have to know how to, deal with really difficult customers sometimes. There's many different parties involved in the transaction, obviously, as dealing with listing agents, dealing with contractors during repair. And then we have to present it all in a, easy to read report format with perspective, and, reduce our own liability. There's a ton of liability where if, buyer moves in and something isn't exactly how we painted that picture, then we're going to get a call, and, somebody's not going to be happy. So
you mentioned some of the teams that you're working with, which are, just the first three that you mentioned are high producing teams. That means you're getting a lot of at bats here. I want to dig back about, you mentioned hiring the right person.
Yeah.
Some things that when I talk to the real estate agents, we're talking about them going to different brokerages and getting to know that this brokerage is, going to be the fit for them. You are actually hiring people, you're putting them on a salary type situation. So you actually do need, as the hirer, to really dig into that person and make sure, and I'm sure it's been some trial and error, as all hiring is a lot of trial and error. Some get there faster than others, but there's, really studying it and learning what questions you need to ask. Because it sounds like to me, and again, correct me, you wanted to find that right person. You could teach them how to inspect a home.
Exactly.
You knew that.
But we can't teach them how to talk.
Right.
Or write.
And how they present themselves and so forth. So what are some of the things, that are you looking for, or questions that you ask, and, how they respond to you? What are some triggers that you're really keying on when you bring somebody in front of you?
Really good question. We don't do a traditional interview format that a lot of companies do. We bring somebody out for the day and hang out. So we're going to bring somebody with us, especially me. I'm not in the field as much as I used to be, but I would bring somebody, along with me to do inspections. I would ask them questions, see how they interact with the clients and the realtors that are there on site, and really just, get a feel for them over a 8-hour period, what they're like. And then the other big piece of that is, everyone that we've hired, almost everybody, did not come from the world of home inspections. And so I need to make sure it's a good fit for them as well. And we've certainly interviewed and had conversations and brought people on for ride-alongs that just
Do you try to
realized
find a
that,
crawl space they can crawl into?
oh yeah, we try to do it all. Attics, roofs, crawl spaces, everything.
Yeah.
But some people decide that this work just isn't the right work for them.
Right.
Because they don't want to walk up the roofs and they don't want to crawl the crawl spaces.
To go out in the middle of the summer and get up in an attic that's 150 degrees and let alone the crawling in a crawl space where, it's Florida. We don't know what's under there, right?
Sure. Yeah. Luckily we don't, the common misconception or a common thought is lots of snakes and, dead bodies in crawl spaces.
I'm thinking
lots
spiders.
of spiders.
Yeah.
Not many snakes though. So.
Do you find many of the poisonous spiders, black widows and so forth? Is that common in the area?
It is. Yeah. We see quite a few.
Okay. So you guys, what you're looking for when I imagine, you're alerted. So, all right. So you have this person, you've tested them out in the field. They've been with you, but when you have that conversation, or what kind of background are you looking for? And the reason why I asked this, because in my years of managing, a while back when I was in telecommunications, I learned a little bit about, they were training us on how to ask questions, right?
Sure.
And you want them to back it up with, yes, I have that experience and here's what happened when I did that. You want them to tell a story that actually sounds factual versus them saying, yeah, I can do that. No, those are not actual answers. So when you're interacting with that new hire, that possible new hire, what are some of the things that you're looking for in their background that triggers you to be that customer service oriented, or that ideology, that attitude, I guess, the lack of better words, that you're looking for? Because I really think this is the heart, and you that's why you're successful. We know there's other couple successful home inspection companies in there. They're successful because they have the people
100%.
person. And the fact that they can do inspections too is just icing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's at the end of the day, our people in the field, they are our salespeople. I'm here doing, podcasts and, things on social media, but the guys in the field that are interacting with the agents and the clients every day, they are the ones that are essentially selling that next inspection the next time around. Mm-hmm. But as far as a background, I don't have a specific background. If you looked at the resumes of each one of our team members, probably all 17 team members are going to come from a wildly different background.
Interesting.
Education, real estate, pond servicing, police officer. One guy worked in a jail, one guy worked in a church. Just you name it, across the board. And that's why, again, I don't care really where your background is. I care about your character, your communication skills, verbal and written, both really important.
Yep.
Because if you can talk and explain to somebody what's going on in the house, but you can't put it on paper and protect that client and protect yourself and the company, you don't have a place in home inspections.
As well, and we'll dig into it a little deeper. Like you said, it's how you present it. Are you just throwing a pack of paper at them saying, here's your 45-page home inspection,
mm-hmm.
and you're mentioning these things, and you don't know who's reading it and what, they're like going, change a light bulb. Oh my God, I don't know how to do that.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And they're putting a lot more versus, explaining it, sitting down and going through it and saying, hey, yeah, this is a little off. You could probably get away with it for a little while, but it's going to have to be changed out. Or, hey, this could be changed out and it's only going to cost a few $100, and really iron it out of what needs to be done. Because I think that's the difference between, you guys and obviously the inspectors that probably aren't even in business anymore.
Sure.
Here in the area. So tell us, Housescan, you got started on this idea of this need. Mm-hmm. You're fulfilling the need. When do you start? How quickly are you growing? And, as you start to expand the team, did you hire some support staff first or another inspector? And just tell us how you kind of grew to where you're at now.
Yeah. So I typically do things backwards from like traditional, suggestions or whatever. I normally take a lot onto my plate and really figure this stuff out and then start like getting the support. But so we didn't hire an in-house support staff member other than an inspector until it was at least maybe after year 2. But a lot of the folks listening probably know Jillian that works with us. She now kind of, really runs our team, but we didn't bring her on until quite a bit.
All right. Now that's a key role there.
It is. Now
I'm a visionary. She's probably an integrator herself because that person has to be organized.
Incredibly organized. Just detail oriented. So really there's been 2 hires. Devin was our first hire. His background is like, construction, knows everything about houses, was literally the perfect hire, the best person I know.
You need somebody like that on the team.
Yeah. And he's now running our home inspection side of our company. And then Jillian was brought on. So it was Devin, Josh, and then Jillian. And Jillian she made us into a company. We were just a group of 3 inspectors before she came on, trying to figure it out and, grow and do all these things. But she made us into a company and put rigor, systems, organization, just behind everything. So
when someone calls in, are they getting her? She answers the phone, or do you have someone else?
We've got Jillian, Sarah, and Gabby in the office now. So
okay,
got 3 girls in the office. So depending on who calls and what time and what day, right, you can get any one of the 3 girls.
All right, someone's answering the phone. Yep. Now you mentioned that most of these guys did not have that construction background.
Right.
You mentioned,
and we actually, to add on that, we shy away from the construction background. Again, it's what we found and what we've seen and heard is that, these folks with the construction background, they tend to really dwell on certain things that, can be alarmist on things that might just not be exactly. Yeah. A pet peeve, or, if they worked, let's say they laid tile, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to be super, picky on tile work. And it's most people probably don't care a whole lot about, the lip, a little bit of lippage on the end of the tile, but, so.
No, exactly. They're going to want to show, their expertise in the area, right?
Exactly.
So how do you, from a training standpoint, how do you take this brand new person, has the great personality and everything, you hire them onto the team? How fast do you ramp them up to where they're out doing inspections on their own? I mean, I assume there's a period of apprenticeship going on.
Yeah. Amazing question. So it's really hard. It is really, really hard to do home inspections, but then grow an inspection company. And that's why there's a handful of larger inspection companies in town, but the vast majority of inspection companies are 1 person, companies. It is really hard to make that investment to, pay somebody a salary to come in and then train them and try to take everything in your brain and put it into theirs. For us, we take up to 6 months with an individual on site, hand holding every inspection, and we just slowly give them more and more responsibility.
So you figure they probably got a couple hundred inspections under their belt before you're
usually 200 inspections or so is what they have, which is plenty. You're going to see 99% of what you're going to see in 200 houses. But we have now, we didn't in the beginning, but we have a really robust training process, step 1 through 100 or so on, need to take this course, you need to do this lesson online, need to, do this on our website and read this. And, I'm an engineer. We have systems for everything. So like I said, step 1 through 100, we have it all just down to a T. And anytime we change that or adjust it, it better be updated on that 100-step to-do list.
In your industry, and you're going on 6 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Was there a tremendous amount of national support where there were training facilities for home inspectors where, you could, in another lifetime for me, almost quite 30 years ago, I was doing flooring with my cousin, and I went down to Dalton, Georgia, and there was a guy, you spent the week there, and when you were done, you became a certified carpet inspector.
Yeah.
Are there facilities like that where you are taking in these new people? Okay, you're hiring now. Okay, I'm going to send him over here. He's going to go to that school. Does the industry have that kind of thing?
So they exist. There's a House of Horrors in Miami and also in,
great name,
in
right?
Denver. Yeah.
House of Horrors.
I went there. I wasn't crazy about it. I mean, it's really nitpicky into the code of new construction, and it's not really applicable to what you're seeing in the field.
Right.
So, it's good, but it wasn't really for me or for my team. Really, to me, it's just number of houses you're in. You have to be in hundreds of houses to really just get it.
Yeah.
And so when you're starting, I mean, there's definitely a learning curve. I am scared to go back and look at my first 30 or 50 inspections because they are just not good. Mm-hmm. And, I paid the price for it. I had to pull out my wallet, a lot during those first few months, first couple of years. Luckily, our systems and our knowledge has gotten so good to where we have, complaints one in, every 100 or 200 inspections now.
Right.
And it's, I'm thinking that we're probably the best in the industry in that regards.
So expand, as you brought that up. What is a complaint that you would get?
Oh gosh, there's been quite a few over the years. Let's
you don't want to
see.
say that, but
no, I mean, it's
but
true.
if you've done enough, you've made
we've,
enough mistakes. That's the important thing.
Exactly.
If you haven't made mistakes, then you haven't done enough inspections.
Exactly. And actually, this is something that I really wanted to talk about today is, everybody has their story about a home inspector missing something or doing this. A couple things. So expectations are crazy high in our industry. If you don't put every single thing in that inspection, the buyer's probably going to call you because they're upset because you missed it.
And that's whether the person bought the cheap package or your most extensive package. They expect the same.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if you note too much, the buyer or the realtor might be upset because you were too nitpicky with it. Right. So we try to find that balance, but we've done, close to 10,000 inspections now at this point, home inspections. We've been through it. We've seen it all. But again, the bare minimum standards in this industry, they're pretty darn low. Like it's pretty hard to be held liable for something because, there's all these, fine print and stipulations where the home inspector is not liable. One story I tell everybody is, hey, if you actually read the standards of practice, an inspector has to check one item per room. So one window per room, one outlet per room. That's the bare minimum. So if that outlet works and this one doesn't, they're probably good. And good luck suing them in a court of law.
Right.
Now, for us, we try to check everything. Everything we can get our hands and eyes on, we're going to check. But I also tell people, hey, we're human, right? And we're going to make mistakes. Hopefully it's one in every few hundred houses. And that's, what it's been. But when we do make a mistake, it's our opportunity to then prove to that agent why they should be using us for life, because we're going to take care of that client. We're going to help them. We're going to try to find solutions and, be there for that client.
Yeah. It's that analogy in life. One, if you aren't making mistakes, you aren't doing enough of what you're doing.
Sure.
And then two, it's like golf, man. You can take the tee shot and go right into the woods, but it's your next shot that is the most important.
Right.
And how you handle that, somebody overlooked something and how you recovered from doing it. And it's going to happen. If you do enough inspections, someone's going to miss something. Someone's having a bad day. Someone's mom died, the night before, and they're out inspecting your home and they miss something. How important, when you're out on the inspection, because you're talking about possibly missing something, I would imagine safety things are where your big liability could be. That outlet not working is not really going to cause anyone to get hurt. It's going to cause somebody to get it fixed, which they would fix if you found it to be wrong anyway.
Sure.
It was just a delay. To dig into some of the inspections, what are some of the major must-dos on every single home as far as the safety and then some of the nuts and bolts thing that no matter if they're on your base package and trying to get through it cheap or spending, the most amount of money getting all your little special tools and widgets and gadgets out. What are some of the things that you've got to get done on every one of those inspections?
Yeah, it's a good question. Again, for us, we don't have tiered services. We just have one package. That's what the client's going to get. It makes it easy for everybody. And so everyone really gets our best inspection. But safety wise, I'll say this, and this is another area where we I don't want to say broke the mold, but we're doing things different than the traditional stereotypical home inspector. We don't focus a whole lot on safety. We're definitely going to note those items in the reports, but if you really think about what the customer cares about, they're worried about money. They're not worried.
What's going to be the big repair?
They're worried about what's going to be the big repair. Do I need a new roof? Do I need a new air conditioning system? Do I need to re-side my house? Do I have a major foundation problem? Somebody's not so worried about the baluster spacing on their, staircase that's over 4 inches because it was grandfathered in and because the house was built in the 60s.
House is the house, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So
make sure that banister's not loose though.
Right. Yeah. If it's loose and you're going to fall over it and kill somebody, definitely want to be noting that. But we're going to note all of that stuff in the report. It's just, we don't make a big screaming, red flag, big deal about it. We'll probably just put it in there as a note, as a minor informational item. But yeah, we're really trying to focus on the money because we know that that's what people care about. Again, if I go back to that, day one, that dinner at Hawker's, I know somebody at some point said, talked about a report and there was these 20 pain points that came out of that. And we just tried to addressing each one of these pain points. But one of those is, my last 3 buyers all, walked away because of minor safety issues that were made these screaming big issues in this inspection report. And they're like, $2 fixes, right?
Right.
So why, like, who cares? Hire a handyman for $100 and knock them all out in a couple hours. So yeah, perspective is really important.
Well, how do you judge, you're talking about what's important to your consumer here,
Right.
who's hiring you to come on, what's important. And then there are those little $2 fixes, but I guess, in your line of work, is there like a code of ethics? Like, hey, I do need to mention that, and it might not be a code violation, but yeah, I don't know, the plate's off the outlet
Right.
or something.
Yeah.
So
perfect example.
Yeah.
It's technically a safety issue that a lot of inspectors would make, a major or a red item in the report because you can stick your finger in there and get shocked, right? To us, the risk is like super, super low, and the repair is about 50 cents at Home Depot, right? So we make it a minor informational item, like, hey, this is a condition in your house. You should get it repaired, but we're not going to
go tell the agent to run down to Home Depot and buy a few and come back.
Exactly.
And slap it out.
Yeah. But so we're going to separate our report out into minor, moderate, and major items. The major items are your major insurance risks, your major big ticket items, or major risks, safety issues. If trying to think of a major safety, if you have a part of the floor that has major water damage and you're at risk of actually falling through the floor when you walk over it, that's going to be a major item.
Right.
But your safety risk of a cover plate missing from your wall, come on, we don't need to be.
Right. Because we all, the media think of some of the newer homes, but there's a lot of homes in Greater Jacksonville that are post World War II homes, and they could have sagging floors and so forth. Give us some stories of things that, obviously things that you see, especially like you said, in these older homes that someone just kind of put a Band-Aid over it. Now they're trying to sell it because the parents passed away, and now someone's going to take over that home. It's like, oh, hold on a second. You got to rip out this entire floor because this is not good.
Yeah. All the time. Every single week we're running into foundation issues and some major stuff, but we're also doing 60, 70 home inspections a week. Man, foundation issues. I've just got so many stories, but one in particular that I remember was there was a townhouse in Atlantic Beach, and this slab had settled so much that it had a sliding glass door, and you open the sliding glass door and it just, comes right back the other direction because the entire slab has shifted.
Wow.
But just, you have to bring it open and then latch it in order for it to close.
And that's what they were doing.
Yeah. And then when you open it, it just slams open, right? When you unlatch it. So
now with the technology of today, the companies that were out there, I know there's companies that fix that. They're going to dig a hole under that side and lift that. Now obviously there's a cost to it.
Sure.
Where most people were like, burn the house down,
right?
But
I'll say this:
things gotten improved with the services as Jacksonville has grown. Have you seen over the last 6 years where these services are now available to come in and fix a lot of the? Have you found a foundation issue that is like just not? There's nothing they can do.
No, everything is repairable in houses, so it just takes money and time, and that's what we tell our clients as well. That's at the end of the day, that's what customers have to make the decision on is, hey, is this house in good enough condition for my time and money? Because everyone's tolerances are different. We talked a little bit earlier about like the subjectivity of home inspections. Some inspectors make a big screaming red flag issue on a missing cover plate, whereas we don't. There's a ton of subjectivity. And so we just try to give, clients the information in order to make a good decision, not be super alarming, not be sugarcoating, just be matter of fact.
That sounds, the how you present this just sounds like so common sense. Like, okay, it's a cover plate. So here's my one pagers of less than, the dollar store repairs, right? That sounds so simple, but yet too many, is it inspectors want to show their worth that they don't really put that on the, like, hey man, these are just the little dollar fixes, not going to change. I just want to let you know, there's a cover plate missing in the kid's bedroom, whatever.
Yeah.
But they're putting it in the report. And then obviously when they highlight it in red or however you do to show that there's hey, in this room, there's these issues, people automatically just get obviously that defensive or like, oh my God. And even though it's like, yeah, here's this paragraph, but it'll cost you $3 to repair.
Right.
It sounds very, for a salesperson that I've been for 30 years of my adult career, that sounds very like common sense, but it hasn't been in home inspectors.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to like toot our own horn too much, but we came in not industry people, right? Like we came in with fresh eyes, thinking about the consumer and the agent, and really just focusing really solely on them and how can we make the best product that's the most valuable for them, and not coming in with years and years of inspection experience and training and going to the house of horrors. And if you hop on these inspection Facebook pages, I mean, it is almost comical how people respond to certain things that they see in the field, and how some of these people, I'm sure they're handling their clients in different situations. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, the old school guys, they wanted to come in like, oh, hey man, I'm Mr. Experience,
right?
And I'm going to talk to you. And then I imagine they talk to their clients, they talk to their real estate agents like they were dumb and stupid.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, dude, that's why we're hiring you. We're paying you.
Right.
But, I think it's the same way in the medical field. Doctors sometimes can talk to you or not talk to you, thinking they have all this knowledge and you're not going to understand it. No, the problem is you're too smart to help me understand it. And I think that we're seeing this change in all industries. This phrase is coming to mind. I can't think of it, but if you're unable to explain what you do to a complete stranger in the elevator in 30 seconds, 60 seconds, explain to them what you do, then you don't know enough about what you're doing.
Sure.
And I think you've taken this, understanding you today, you've taken this from the thing is how a home inspection is a product. We can do that. We can learn that. We got to go get our out bats. That takes time, but learning how to actually present it to the real estate agents and sellers that they feel they've got what the value, they know what's wrong with the house, they know what it's going to cost to repair, what's important and what's not. And that is really how you run a successful home inspection business.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to give up all my secrets.
We won't go. Let's. Yeah, we've been going here, and I know you got. We'll get you as close to 10 o'clock here as possible.
Yeah, we're good.
You continuing ed. I imagine different things are coming up. Obviously, it's the word I want to use in the building world. You got to have the rules of how things need to be
code
constructed.
Changes
codes.
and all
That's
that.
The word codes.
So codes really just don't apply to home inspections. They definitely there's overlap, but home inspectors are not required to cite code, no code, do anything with that.
Interesting.
Yep. So common misconception. Sometimes, it doesn't really impact us a whole lot, but especially once we explain that to folks, hey, we're there to assess function and safety. And,
Hey folks, this episode was produced by Streamline Media, the #1 media company for helping brands generate content that converts. I knew I wanted to start a podcast to reach more people and bring value to the world, but I did not have the time or the knowledge. Streamline Media became my secret weapon to building my show. They handle all my back-end work, production, and strategies to keep my show going strong. If you're in the real estate business and looking to make content that generates more leads and brings in more revenue, check out the Streamline Media link in the show notes and discover how partnering up can supercharge your path to real estate excellence. I know that there's a code on if you build a deck on the back of a house,
right.
If it's so many feet off the ground, it's got to have a railing.
Sure. Yep.
That's code.
Yep.
If you go out there and that's not, that's not right. Are you mentioning that?
Yes. But a lot of the code is common sense. So you should be mentioning it regardless. But, I think a good example with that is 30 inches is that cutoff. So above 30 inches, you should have fall protection. 29 inches, you're not required it, but should you note it? Probably.
Should you still have it?
Right. Probably.
Yeah.
So everything in the home inspection world should be based on common sense, function, safety, giving that client a general idea of the condition of the house. But the fine print in an inspection report doesn't cover code.
I imagine in this just common sense, I think probably in this area, pools probably come up into this area.
Yeah. More
so than decks, because most of anyone on the deck typically is on the ground here in Northeast Florida. But pools, what are some of the things you see with pools that aren't in code? Somebody went and built it. probably didn't even have, and the county doesn't even know about it.
Mhm.
We know stuff like that goes on, but give some things that homeowner or the agents that are listening, because mostly going to be agents listening. Some things about pools that you got to keep your eye out, because I see this happen a lot.
Yeah, I actually have one story that I would like to share about pools, but kind of a little bit different. But we actually outsource pool inspections to a pool specific inspector. Super good, does leak detection with the pool inspection. So, and just for probably $50 more than most home inspectors charge for a pool inspection. So that's my little plug for at least them. Leak detective.
How do they detect the leak?
They have equipment that they put over each orifice and opening in the pool,
Mm-hmm.
and it detects if there's a leak in
I'm
that pipe.
I'm just thinking a lot of they're poured. If there's a little crack in the bottom, it could be leaking. I mean, typical person probably wouldn't even know that. Unless, I guess they can see the crack maybe in a.
Yeah, I don't even know a whole lot about it, but they do it.
They do it.
Yeah, it's leak detection, and if you order that service separately, you're probably paying $500 just for leak detection service. But they're including it with the pool inspection for $289. Incredible value. Every realtor should be using this pool inspection company for every pool that they're inspecting. I would not hire a home inspector to inspect a pool. Just my 2 cents. But so on that, I have a friend that's an attorney, and he is representing a client. What is it? So we talked earlier about the subjectivity of home inspections, safety, how big you make these issues. But there was a latch on a screen door outside of a pool that did not latch. And so this family had a baby that first day they moved in, pushed the door open, fell in the pool, and unfortunately passed away.
Oh my goodness.
So that is a really good example of how serious the work that we're doing is, and how something as small as a door latch can be a really big deal and change a life, all that, crazy stuff. And so I know our team.
Did they go back? They went back in an inspection. Nobody said anything about that door latch having a problem.
Correct. Yep.
Interesting.
And so, there's litigation and all kinds of stuff happening in that situation. But I know for us, we use that as a learning opportunity that, hey, pools in particular are very, very important, serious, and can be dangerous. And so we don't mess around with anything around pools. So
makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dig into some things here about to keep us on time. 15 minutes here.
I could talk for 7 days straight on home
trust
inspections.
Me. So I get into some great conversations with the real estate. We go on for a couple hours because when we sit here and tell stories. Like I said, if you want to start we were talking earlier, you want to start your own podcast, come on once a week and tell, a couple stories about home inspections.
Yeah.
I mean, people would be listening in to those stories for sure. Marketing wise, as a business, as a home inspection business, where are you marketing direct to consumer? Is that something that gets you a return on investment? What have you learned over 6 years? And I imagine there's been some trial and error in this on what it, and kind of tell us about some things you maybe tried a few years ago, like that didn't even work at all. I found this and then this is where I'm focused on. Tell us, as a home inspection business, how are you doing your marketing? Where are you getting your biggest return on investment?
Yeah. So the biggest return is 100% our team, our people. If we train them right and they get in the field and they're doing a good job, that realtor is going to keep coming back and back and back over and over again. So that has been our biggest investment, is just into training, how we communicate, all that stuff. And that's what we did for 4.5 years. Our, first 4.5 years in business, we could not keep up with, the market was also going crazy. COVID happened. Everyone's moving to Florida. So we could not keep up. And then obviously there's been a shift here the last 6, 7, 8 months. And this crazy hot market has really slowed down with the interest rates, coming up and everyone kind of sitting. So our numbers have come down, they came down quite substantially.
Right.
And we got into, hey, we need to put together a plan to weather this storm, start really marketing. And so, we are everyone that's listening, if you're an agent, I know that that we're on Instagram. We're very active on there. We've got our whole team on there, and, we engage with, the folks that we're working with on a daily basis, realtors, and, thanking them for inspection referrals and just being a member of our community. And so that has been really big. We share some of the crazy findings that we see, and that usually gets we've had a few go viral, over the years.
Well, because you can kind of get, imagine there can be some complacency and where people are like, do we really need to do a home inspection? Are we just wasting our money? They're just going to come in. They'll tell us a few things are wrong, but I can see that. My dad can tell me what's wrong with the house. But if you're putting those things out there, like, you mentioned about the possible lawsuit with the latch, as small as that could be, to the foundation issues and those things, and especially the things that people won't see with their naked eye typically, termites, cutting into the beam, and all of a sudden the termites start pouring out.
Yep.
Stuff like that the average person is walking in and going, it looks okay. Let's go.
Right.
You create the urgency and obviously the need to have the home inspection, but you're each an individual inspector that you have, including yourself. Are you personally creating those relationships, or maybe you got it started, but you let that inspector like handle the Rocco team, for example, or the Welch team? How do you handle that in keeping that marketing and obviously keeping that relationship?
Yep. It's hard. So I know a lot of inspection companies will stick one inspector with a certain realtor. What we try to do is keep everybody close to home. So if we have a couple inspectors in St. Johns County, we try to keep them in St. Johns County. So if, occasionally we'll get, hey, can you send Josh up to, Nassau County?
Right.
Sure. Yeah, we can do it. But we don't really tie anybody to one specific
try to schedule
realtor.
Josh with some other Nassau counties that day.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try to limit the driving and really like, it's on us to train everybody to be consistent and to do a good job with every single realtor. And we've sent out some polls in the past and, ask, hey, how is our consistency from inspector to inspector? And like the vast majority of agents say, everyone I've ever worked with is amazing. Like you guys are killing it.
Now, quality control from the actual inspection report.
Yep.
Are you overlooking some of them? Do you have a second eye put on it?
So I read every single inspection report up until about a year and a half ago. And now we have a full-time person that reads every single inspection report. So that's one thing that most inspection companies don't have is a quality control person that reads every report. He goes through everything. And then any complaints that come in, he's dealing with those, trying to figure out how we can.
Well, it could be simply grammatical errors. There's people that will pick up on a grammatical error and like that'll set them off. Oh, these guys don't even know English.
Yep.
They don't know what's in the house.
And then they start looking closer and, this tile is lifted up here and they missed that, all that kind of stuff.
100%, 100%.
So it's important.
All right. I had Ken Knapp on recently. A good friend of mine, Andrew Michael. Andrew Michael's the one who led me on to it. Kim Knapp talked about it a little bit in her pre-listing inspections. Do you sell that as obviously something you would do if someone's willing to hire you, do that. But when you're talking to the agents and obviously telling them about your service and selling your service, do you tell them, hey, your pre-listing inspections can take a lot of stress out of that post-contract?
Sure.
Yeah.
Pre-listing inspections are a double-edged sword. So I'm probably the only inspector out there that will say that. But again, every inspector wants to push their services and make money and all that. Again, we care about the client. I don't want to sell something that's going to ultimately hurt them or, not improve things. But so yes, pre-listing inspections can be great, especially in an instance where you need to sell a house quickly or you don't quite know exactly what's going on in that house. And you want to make sure that all the surprises you're informed upon those.
It's a little bit older home. There might be something.
Maybe somebody that, hasn't maintained their house great. But I'd say the vast majority of houses, like you probably don't need to get them done. But let's say, you've got a widow in a house and the husband did all the maintenance on the house for years and they're selling that house after, owning it for 30, 40 years. And she just doesn't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And you need to sell it quickly because you don't want it sitting on the market and, dropping price. So in that instance, we get a lot of folks that might want a pre-listing inspection and they're starting to come back more and more as the market's kind of shifted. People don't want their house sitting on the market for super long. And so that's a good strategy.
Or they've gotten used to the last roughly 24 months where it was only lasting a few days.
Oh, right.
And now it goes a week. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And we saw pre-listing inspections basically go to zero. We didn't get any for about a 2-year period originally, but now, they're starting to come back as the market has shifted a little bit. But what I tell folks is, hey, if we do a pre-listing inspection and you read that report, you're then kind of liable to like divulge that information and share it. And there might be some things in there that you don't really want to know, right? So let's say, for example, you have a foundation issue, because
Right.
a lot of houses have a foundation issue and you might not be aware of it.
Mm.
You know, we tell you that you have a foundation issue. You get, let's say, Alpha Foundations to come out. They say it's $25,000 to repair it. You're then, you know, probably need to let your buyers know about that issue. So in that instance, you know, maybe being naive and not really knowing exactly what's going on might be better. But again, ethics is important. You know, everybody should be honest in everything, but that's the double-edged sword that I'm talking about. Sometimes it doesn't make the most sense. But a lot of times you don't know that until like after the fact, right? So like hindsight's 20/20, and you know, we're all trying to make the best decisions
well, like
that
I
we
said,
can
it's
with
too
the
much.
information.
Hindsight is 22. Yeah, you just don't know what's going to pop up on there.
Right.
If you knew it before, it may not have killed that deal. Now you're dropping the price and lost that deal and having to get a new buyer in there because of that. New home construction. How important. Talking to some other inspectors, there are some horror stories in some of these subdivisions where they're pretty much slapping these homes together as fast as they could. Now it's slowed down a little bit, but you know, not a year ago, a year and a half ago, man, they were trying to kind of slam these people into closings and throwing the houses together as fast as they can. And obviously mistakes are made. How important is, even if you're buying a brand new home, to hire your service?
So obviously I'm biased. I own a home inspection company, but getting inspections on every house that you're purchasing. If you're an investor, if you're buying a used house, if you're buying a brand new house, it's the best money that somebody's going to spend during the real estate transaction. I love lenders. I love real estate agents. I love, you know, the title companies, but that $500 that somebody's going to spend for a home inspection is, I think without a doubt, it's the best money that somebody can spend. New construction.
Give us a story. I know you got one.
Oh God, hundreds, thousands of stories. So I would say just hop on our Instagram page and just look through. I mean, we've got all kinds of new construction issues that we've come across.
These and I know there's the superintendents that are working for the builder who oversee the contractors that come in. These contractors, some of their laborers are not skilled.
Right.
And they are truly laborers. And one of your competitors in the market it was so obvious. He's like, it was consistently happening in the same subdivision where the piping in the foundation and the toilet wasn't the right distance apart. So you can actually put those things into the bathroom later on. And I'm like, and it was costing them thousands of dollars having to drill up the concrete. So who wants to see their brand new slab cut into, right?
Yeah.
Before they even built the home. That was just some of the horror stories there.
Here's a crazy story. So my parents just built a new house up in North Carolina. And so not in our market, obviously, but brand new house, brand new roof. And like, they're out, closer to the ocean. And so you get some heavier winds, but they had like 35 mile per hour winds one day, like not hurricane force winds by any means.
Standard stuff.
And they started to see shingles starting to blow off.
Oh my God.
And this roof was on for like 2 weeks. And so they called me and they said, "Hey, like, is this normal?" Like, no, this isn't normal. And we actually have the video on our Instagram. It is wild. But yeah, 2-week-old roof, every shingle was high nailed. So what that means is a shingle is supposed to have 2 nails in it, top and middle. And these shingles, basically they were separated too far and not overlapped enough. And so each shingle only got 1 nail in them. And so, 35 mile per hour winds makes sense. Blew them all right off.
It happens. The guy you're talking to who's selling it probably is most likely the experienced person, but you don't know what laborers are up there doing, and let alone they might hate the guy, and so they're trying to screw a job over. Not necessarily screw you over, but they're screwing the guy over by doing a bad job, knowing it's going to come. Who knows what's going on, right? You just don't know, or they just aren't skilled and realize they're making the same mistake. And the fact that in this, we talk about, in fact, the mistake happens in multiple houses, brand new construction is like, whoa. So you just need someone out there with your eyes professionally that's making sure the stuff is put together.
Yeah, it happens all the time. Again, the new construction inspection that doesn't have any issues in it is extremely rare. These houses haven't been lived in. They haven't been like vetted. So
very good too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's imperative.
Nobody's put a little drive time on it and made sure things function. I know a builder here, just to tell my story, these people did not have a home inspector. They forgot to put the AC drainage pipeline in the slab. Okay. So when they put the AC in later, after everything else is put down, AC unit goes in, they got to run that tube up to the second floor, out to the outside of the house, and then down the side of the house. Yep. Now, how does the water do? They had to put a pump in.
Yep. And you got to pay electricity for the pump. Like it's crap.
That's the easy part. What if that pump gets clogged, which they often do, or fails, and all of a sudden you're going on vacation and that thing backs up, and also boom, all of a sudden you come home and your hardwood floors are now been sitting in water for whatever period of time.
For sure.
And you do not want to make insurance claims. Just letting you know, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about insurance.
All right. So I actually had on here, do you recommend a package? You include everything with it, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, one of the most popular things here in Florida to have is a moisture scan of the house, because you don't, the mold can grow quickly in walls and so forth. I imagine you have lots of horror stories in there, but tell us about your service and some of those things you're including in that one package price.
Sure. So the home inspection, very, comprehensive. We're looking at everything that we can get our hands and eyes on. And then the 2 insurance reports. So the wind mitigation inspection and the 4-point inspection, those are both included as well. And that, again, it's like one of those 20 things that we do slightly different than most other inspection companies, at least when we started, was just to include it. Less friction. It's easier. It's one price, one invoice. You're not going to get clients calling you, 2 days before closing, asking for a wind mid and a 4-point to buy insurance.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's just easier for everybody. And we just started including it. It takes us literally like 4 or 5 minutes to put these reports together. We already have all the pictures. We already have everything. And so to charge $75 or $100 for each of those reports, in my opinion, is insane. You might make a buck, but we're providing tremendously more value than the person that's charging $100 for each of these reports.
Yep.
And then the infrared scan, which you alluded to, is another thing that we added on top. And yes, moisture definitely helps to find moisture behind walls, roof leaks, moisture intrusion, things that you might not see with your naked eye right until it's kind of too late. And then, missing insulation, circuits, all kinds of different things. But that infrared scan it's pretty incredible, using an infrared camera, pretty much just scanning all interior room surfaces of the house and looking for anomalies. So,
and again, that can happen in new construction or a house that's only 2 or 3 year olds. Like, oh, it's only 2 or 3 year olds. There's no problems with it. Trust me, they didn't put the stucco on correctly and the moisture's getting behind it, or all those types of things.
We have a crazy story, like a $3 million house in Atlantic Beach, just a few years old, 4 or 5 years old, but the builder did not flash the second story windows properly. So they had water dumping in for the first 3-4 years, just rotting everything out in the walls. And they had no idea. Okay.
Yep.
It's all behind the stucco. You don't see it until it's too late. And all we saw was one tiny little brown stain on the underside of the roof overhang on the soffit area. And we said, hey, that doesn't look right. You might want to get it checked out. And they opened it up and they found the entire wall from end to end basically rotted out.
Oh my goodness.
I forget how many tens of thousands of dollars in repairs, but it was jaw dropping. Jaw dropping.
I assume that was the original owner. If it was 4 or 5 years,
it was. And the builder took care of that. Actually.
The builder, but that can be a mess itself.
Yeah.
You don't want, trust me, we had in our neighborhood, they obviously put up, if you want to call it builder grade windows. They all, you got 2 panels there, right? And the fog in the middle,
right.
It's got an air leak or whatever, seal's not right. It would happen all over our neighborhood. The problem was the original owners let it go. And then they go to sell the house. And now you're walking around and looking at it going, of course we bought ours at a foreclosure. So we accepted it the way it was, but that's one thing we had to do was go and change out all those windows. Now, benefit for us, I always like to find a good thing is we went, we got the low E windows because our house faces the west in the afternoon, and it would get hot in our living room in the afternoon. We put the better window in. Great. But my wife pursued, as she does, she's going to pursue that builder. And trust me, dealing with their warranty department is not, you would pay him, you would pay Kurt here $1,000 to avoid that situation, to have that inspection done up front and solve those issues before you ever even moved into the house.
Sure. And I'll say this, the home inspection won't predict everything that will go wrong at some point, but it certainly can avoid some of those issues.
Statistics, right? You got to, do your best you can. All right. We have to have one really nightmare story.
All right. Let me think here. There's been so many.
We got bugs. We got,
gosh, it feels like my house.
We run into a big snake under a house.
Oh man.
Have you ever crawled under a house and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this"?
Yeah, a few times. It doesn't happen very often, especially once you've been in enough of those like nasty crawl spaces. But every once in a while, it's like, wet, mucky, muddy.
Well, I can imagine, you do enough, especially in the older homes that do have crawl spaces. If you've got, the sewage pipe leaking or something like that, I mean, one, that's a catastrophic thing, to clean up and so forth. You don't have a home inspection done, and else, and you find it out after you move in the house that you've got this issue under. Oh my, now you're going to live with it. You got your kid,
We've had instances where we saw, the drain piping, coming out and taking the poop water, sewage water, gray water, whatever you want to call it, taking it out to the sewer, and then just but not making it to the sewer and just dumping it right in the middle under the house.
Oh my goodness.
And then we're crawling in and we're like, we see the water coming out. Oh, that's coming from the toilet. Yeah, I'm basically laying in.
Crawling it. Yeah.
So, fun stuff.
The hazmat suits come out, right?
So when somebody complains about the inspection price, being $400 or $500, I should remind them about that.
We've had a lot. We've been going on here for a while. Is your guys all right? We have a couple more minutes.
Yeah, I'm good. Yep.
My big thing now, I don't know if you heard about this Chat GPT, the artificial intelligence. So what I did, and this is what I asked Chat GPT, create 10 insightful thought-provoking podcast interview questions that would promote the guest who is the owner and reputable home inspection company. And this is some questions I asked. We won't go through them all.
This is incredible.
Yeah, it spits out
Amazing.
Some insightful stuff. This question is kind of doubled in here. It mentions, I'm going to see which one I want to ask. What advice would you give to someone looking to purchase a new home or to homeowners considering selling their property, obviously in respects to a home inspection? Sure.
I think we touched on a few of these items throughout the podcast, but just the importance of it. I always tell everybody, hey, there's a wide range of price points for home inspections. You can probably find somebody to do one for $250. You could spend thousands of dollars on home inspections. Find the company that works best for you in that situation. So
actually that brings up a very interesting point. What is the difference? And I know you're seeing it out there, you market against it because you kind of have the one price mindset. That's how you want to market your company to someone who's willing to do it for $200 or $300, kind of like just to say they inspected the home. What are they really getting for that?
Yeah, they're probably not getting a wind mitigation inspection. They're probably not getting a 4-point inspection. They're definitely probably not getting an infrared scan. And they're probably, somebody that's just doing it on the side or maybe, brand new into the business and they don't have that experience.
Because the wind mid inspection itself could save you $50 a month on your homeowner's insurance, which would long more pay for
Yeah. Sometimes we've heard of some clients, bigger houses, but saving thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah, because of the wind mitigation and not having to order it separate. Like you said, we run across that all the time too. I'll obviously refer out an insurance company and hey, do you have a wind mitigation report? So the agents, I imagine that's one of the things you sell it to. So the agents that are working with you, the agents that are not working with you, Kurt is including that wind mitigation in there. You could sell that to your client. Hey, I recommend Kurt because the wind mitigation is included and it's going to save you money on your homeowner's insurance. You will get that inspection money back. Just simply having that done and it's included. We talked a little bit about, does the regulations, this question is, how do you stay up to date with industry regulations and standards and best practices? We talked a little bit about that, but I mean, do they change often in it, or is there an industry journal that you stay abreast of to kind of see what's going on nationally? And does things change locally at all? Regularly?
Yeah. So the codes change. They change every few years. And again, the home inspection and the codes, there's some overlap, but they're not directly, home inspectors do not need to know codes, but there's some industry organization, INTERNACHI, ASHI, they kind of like police, not police. They support home inspectors and provide continuing education and try to improve standards and try to improve the industry. So probably not a whole lot different than like a NEFAR organization or like a NAR organization. They oversee the home inspector.
They're writing regular articles. Somebody's putting out some content for you to stay abreast.
Yeah, and they're talking about like certifications, what you need to become a home inspector. And then each state really is licensed separately. So they all make their own laws and determinations on what you need to do and complete in order to become a home inspector.
We touched on this a little bit, but and I think I don't know. I don't want to assume I know the answer, but that this is a good direct question to someone who might be listening, or even cut a reel out with this one. What are some red flags or warning signs that a home may have significant issues during inspection?
Oh gosh, another tough one.
We talked about the foundations. That's kind of obvious.
Yeah, foundations. Now, here's what I'll say about foundations, though. Lots of times, foundation issues, the symptoms of that are subtle, and you might not realize that your house even has foundation issues. For example, if that door has a corner crack at a 45-degree angle outside, off one corner of it, that's probably that wall shifting and that floor shifting indicates a foundation issue. Let's see.
Are you testing every door? Because that's kind of one of the real easy ways, right? You go and make sure every door closes properly.
Yeah, every window, every door. Yes, we're testing everything that we can get our hands and eyes on. But yeah, if that door doesn't close properly, it might not be a foundation issue. It could just be a hinge is loose or off, or something didn't quite align. But
or in a new home, a brand new home, it could be somebody didn't cut something correctly.
Exactly. Yep. But yeah, there's just, every single system, there's things that could be catastrophically wrong that could cost, money at some point. Roofs, plumbing, electrical.
I'm gonna go with this question here, because I think this will kind of bring us to a wrap. And then if you want to add anything, because anything you think you want people to know about a house scan, what are some common misconceptions people have about home inspection?
Yeah, there's a lot. And I could probably rattle off 10, but let's see. So one, we talked about codes a bunch. Codes are not part of home inspections. Although we might cite code, we might reference code.
Obvious, blatant.
Yep. But back to that. If you think about a house built in the 60s, nothing is going to be up to today's code. So it's impossible to really inspect on code.
Right.
But yeah, code is not really included. Sometimes folks think that things behind walls or underneath the ground would be included in a home inspection, and they're not. It's really only things that we can get our hands and eyes on, although we do use an infrared camera, and that helps see potential issues behind a wall.
Now, if I would imagine, if there's a sewer pipe problem, that you're going to follow that, you can get a camera down those pipes.
Correct. Yeah. And we don't offer sewer scope inspections yet, but that is a good idea, especially with old cast iron piping. That stuff can corrode from the inside out, cause, leaks, cause blockages. Really, really good idea to get that inspected with a camera, for sure. So
I always like to listen. I when a thought comes to my mind, one thing with the podcast is training me is stay focused on, your guest and what they're saying. So when the thought came in, now I've lost the thought. It was it was kind of a tail question off of that on the misconception part. But from a real estate agent standpoint, it's kind of like, we're going to start here because of my partner here, Aaron Dewey. He's extremely bright on and knows everything about the VA loan, because the VA loan has all these idiosyncrasies. But yet the old school real estate agents are like, oh, you don't, VA buyer, ooh, you don't want to go near that, when actually it's the best loan out there.
Yeah.
From a real estate agent, if you were addressing, you were at NEFAR addressing a room of 100 real estate agents and explaining, talking, kind of tailing off the misconceptions of it, that the right home inspection company, and expand on this for me, how the right inspection home is actually going to make them look good. And obviously, unless, obviously you can't control what's wrong with the house. If there's a catastrophic $25,000 foundation issue, you can't cover that up.
Sure.
But to make some of the typical house boo-boos not as catastrophic or, so devastating to the buyer, how would you express that? Tell them how you and your team are presenting that report, and how you guys are going to do your best and obviously, from the dollar standpoints of the repairs and so forth, but really you're expressing your words. I'm kind of putting them out there for you, but expressing your words, how you make that relationship through that report.
Yeah, I think what people are looking for from a home inspector is, honesty, integrity, giving them the information that they need to make a decision. At least that's what the good agents want. I would say that there's plenty of agents out there that want the home inspector not to find anything, to basically, yep, this house is good. There's nothing going on here. You're good to go. Go buy the house. That's a very short-term strategy in the world of real estate. Yeah, you might sell a house or a couple houses that way, but you will not be in the business very long. You're not going to get many customers from those customers if you're selling houses that way, or you're referring inspectors that conduct their business that way. So for us, again, communication is everything. It's so important. We spend so much time early on training about this and just focusing on this, but we don't want to sugarcoat things and we don't want to alarm folks on things. We want to be matter of fact, give them the information, give them perspective, and let them ultimately make the decision on the house. And that's all, we're there to do.
I totally agree with, yes, it is heartbreaking that you found a house, they'd make an offer on it, but God believe if there's something wrong with it and they don't want, and the buyer is not going to fix it.
Well, and there's things wrong with every single house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So expectations are so important. And that real estate agent, the folks that have been doing it longer, they know to set those expectations with the buyers. And we try to do it too. But like when we first, have an introduction with that buyer on site,
right? We
try to say, hey, this is what you're going to expect with the report. This is what I looked at today. This is what we're going to talk about and go over. But expectations are so important. If somebody just gets our, 80-page home inspection report, yeah, of course, yeah, they're going to be walking away.
Yeah,
maybe.
But 100%, you don't want your buyer that you created a relationship. And I tell you, every top agent I've had on, it's all about relationships. It's one of the commonalities. They all talk about relationships. You have a relationship with that buyer and you put them in a house that you hire an inspector that you hopefully is not going to give them a good report. So you could just stamp another close and get your check.
Right.
When that problem comes back, it's going to come back on you that you recommended that home inspector. Oh, yeah. He didn't see that. And you told us $300 was enough for a home inspection just because you were trying to, it's not worth your longevity in this business.
Right.
I really feel a lot of agents only see a short term.
Oh, especially new agents.
Yes.
I mean, it's, hey, the first question we always get asked is, what's the price? And that's perfectly valid. I mean, we tell people, hey,
mine's the interest rate.
Yeah, so, yeah, exactly. Go shop around. We know where we're priced in the market. We're in the middle and we provide one of the best services. And so, it's, like good luck finding somebody that is going to do a better job than us at a better price. So.
Yeah, 100%. And agents, stop asking him what the price is. Ask him what services he's going to provide.
Or just look at Google reviews. Yeah. If you're using an inspection company with 6 Google reviews, versus our 1,600,
well, I'm going to go in my little soapbox here for a moment. We'll put both cameras on here. So let's go there and we go 1, 2.
I'm terrible looking at the camera, by the way.
You're doing well. I got that camera slightly off. Okay. I want to make sure I lean the right way. Stop asking about the interest rate. Stop asking about the home inspection, how much it costs. I know that's the only question you have because it's the obvious question, right? But the reality is your customers are going to be better served with great service. If they have to pay an extra $50 for Kurt over another company who's offering the same services, I guarantee you his $50 is worth that much more simply because he came on the podcast here and is willing to present himself and put his company out there on the air forever. YouTube, podcast world, and ever. That says a lot right there. But those are the teams you're working with. Tell me you're good because of those ladies, I tell you, are top notch in the industry. Interest rates. Stop asking your lender or broker what interest rates you have. Trust me, when the transaction's done, it's the service and the smoothness and that it was done. I'll let the customer and the lender worry about what the interest rate is. Real estate agents, stay out of interest rate talk. If your customer thinks his price is too high, simply say, this is the service he's offered. These are the services over here. He's got Google reviews. He doesn't. It's your choice. Then it's on them. But dollars and interest rates actually are not the questions you should be asking. And I'm not scolding you real estate agents. I'm educating you to be better than every day, as that's why we have this podcast, hearing the greats and what they do. So that's my soapbox for today.
Love it. I love it.
Yes. All right, Kurt, you want to say anything about the company that's, anything unique or anything special that maybe we haven't talked about today that you want to finish up with?
This has been an awesome hour plus with
Mhm.
you. It's been actually a really good conversation. I just want to thank my team. My team is, I think, the best in the industry. They're amazing. They're out there every single day, working hard, dealing with, sometimes difficult customers. Like I said before, it's a difficult job. I did it in the field for 4 years. It is really, really difficult. And I think these guys are, some guys and gals, some of the best in the industry. And I just want to thank them for everything that they do every single day and getting us to be the biggest and the highest rated home inspection company in Northeast Florida.
That's awesome right there. I mean, just hearing your attitude towards hiring and the people you're looking for tells everyone on here a lot, actually. And you get those from the greats, even some of these big corporate icons that have built great companies. And it's all about your people. You hire the right people that are focused with your ideology, you're driven, your culture, and that's to create that great product. The tangible things you can learn, anyone can learn those, but those great service providing things, and the fact that the due diligence that you do hire someone who's not experienced because they have the internal skills, and that says a lot. And obviously, it's your success is so what I want to be. I was coming up with some old wives saying there, but anyway, the proof is in the pudding. That's what it is.
There we
Proof
go.
is in the pudding. Excellent. I appreciate you coming on today.
Awesome.
Thank you
so much.
Kurt's information is going to be in the show notes, but obviously it's on social media. Easily, you can look you up on Instagram. You mentioned you're also on Facebook. I haven't started a YouTube page yet, but I would highly recommend that.
It's coming someday.
Yeah.
The podcast and the YouTube, it'll all come someday.
Well, for a little tip out there for the agents, like I said, I cut reels. You're going to see reels from this. If you're doing reels, you can post them across TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and Facebook has reels now. So you have one piece of content you can put across all platforms. You don't have to really worry too much about where your audience is, because I don't think everyone really knows where their audience really is. So that's my opinion, unless you've been doing it long enough and actually have enough analytics on it to actually find out where your customer base is. But that's fine. But I appreciate you coming on. We're going to sign off. Thanks.
Thank you.